Good evening, everybody. How are you doing? All right. Can you guys hear me all right? All right. So welcome to Memoirs, True Stories, Unfiltered. My name is Flip, and thank you for being here. So why does Memoirs exist? Every month I come up, or better yet, I don't want to say I steal it, but I read other people and I get inspired and I try to use what they tell me and put it in my own words. So why does Memoirs exist? Storytelling is a fundamental part of being human. Stories let us share information in a way that creates an emotional connection. They help us to understand information and each other, and it makes the information memorable. Because stories create an emotional connection, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and other people's experiences. That not only helps us to understand their lives, but allows us to take the lessons they have learned and apply it to our own. It also brings us to a place that when it's time to celebrate, we do exactly that. So happy birthday to Memoirs and to our Memoirs family. It's an evening to celebrate. So by show of hands, how many first-timers do we have in here? All right, awesome. Thank you for being here. I know what you first-timers are thinking. You're thinking, if I wanted to get up and tell a story, what would it be about, right? That's what you're thinking? You're thinking about how fast can you get up on this stage? Well, if you're interested in getting on this stage, you can tap me or Maritza in the shoulder, or you can go to memoircos@gmail.com and send us a message through there. You can also follow us on our Facebook and the Gram at memoircos. We also have a podcast. And as of last month, it was 250. Now we're at 350, so people are starting to listen. So if you'd like to hear some of the stories of the past, you can subscribe to the Memoirs podcast. It's Memoirs, True Stories, Unfiltered. I don't know if you noticed, maybe Samantha told you all in the beginning when you walked in, but there's these little stickers that we're selling. And those stickers, part of the proceeds go to Casa. And I would like to invite, I want to see which one of them fights to come up here first. Danielle or Rochelle, which one of you would like to come up and talk about Casa? Frank could talk about it too. Let's give them a hand so we can learn about what Casa's all about.
Alrighty, so this local nonprofit is near and dear to my heart. I am a CASA, court-appointed special advocate. I'm a specially trained volunteer that actually takes on a case of a kiddo who's in a dependency neglect case. So apparently parents are not making wise choices, and the kiddo's put into foster care and needs somebody who reports directly to the judge. So we're sworn in with the court, and we follow this kid or kiddos, family of kiddos, all the way through the process, either to reunification, which is always the goal. But I actually just had the privilege of finishing out a case of a 16-year-old young man with severe needs, nonverbal, into his forever home, and I got to see him adopted as he was abandoned completely by his family. So if you want to really make an impact and change a child's life, come see me, Danielle, and I'm happy to talk to you about it.
Thank you. And I was actually a CASA recipient when I was a child, so I had a lot of different social workers throughout the years. I went to a lot of different foster homes, and my CASA recipient was actually the one who coached me on what to say so I could actually finally leave my home, because we were taken between my younger sister and I a total of 9 times, and we did not want to go back. So I thank you, CASA, and I thank the CASA person that I had that actually coached me on what to say so I could actually finally leave and become, a full-time foster kid and age out of the system. So it's a great organization, and as somebody who has used the organization as a child, I didn't really realize the impact I had until I got older.
Thank you both very much. We appreciate that. And yeah, it's just a sticker, but it's something, right? We're trying to help our kids, especially the kids who their memoirs have not been completely written yet. We are trying to help them realize that it is under their control how their memoir ends up. So, Casa. So you see these papers right here. I'm going to pull this out. Do you see these on the table? So these are called Anonymous Memoirs. So today's theme is birthday wishes coming into reality. So if you have anything like that, even if it's a birthday nightmare, Just put it on this paper. We're not going to say who you are. We're not going to tell anybody who you are. So just write down your little birthday secret or anonymous memoir. And back in that corner over there, there's a little basket. You just throw them in there, and we will read them between stories. So let's give a big hand to 3Es for letting us be here for a year. I see you all got some drinks and stuff, so thank you for supporting this venue. And please keep supporting. So you want to say something, Eric? I see your silhouette back there. I see you. Come on. Come on up. Let's give Eric, owner of 3Es, a hand. Yes.
Hello. I just want to thank these guys for bringing this awesome event here. It's been going on for a year. I already got a cupcake. So, but it's been great, and you guys are great. And just tell more people about this. This is a great way to talk about yourself and how you feel, and you'll be surprised how many other people will say, hey, I've been in that predicament, or I've been through the same thing. So I've been up here last year, so I told the part of my story that I could tell. Couldn't tell you everything. But yeah, keep coming. This is great, and thanks a lot.
Thank you, Eric. So now I'm going to call my lovely wife / co-partner, co-founder of all the things that I do here to tell us about a contest that we're going to do today and about another event that we're putting together.
Hello, everyone. So, hi. I don't typically get on this stage, however, here I am. So tonight, I would like to have a contest. So everyone that's here, I know, has a phone, and you're going to Google Memoirs True Stories Unfiltered, and you are going to go to our Google page and leave us a review on our Google page. So we are officially on Google now. It's awesome. But if we don't do anything with that, then what's the point, right? So whoever leaves us an amazing review, we will pick that person, and they get to have 2 tickets to our first annual Best of the West Wing Fest, where, MC by Mr. Frank Sinclair himself, and also Karissa Selena, which is around here somewhere. We'll have 2 MCs. And yeah, we're going to try to find out who has the best chicken wings in Colorado Springs. Fun, right? There'll be music, live entertainment, beer, and most of all, chicken wings, right? So I know you guys want these tickets. Right now, they're a $75 value, and we will give them away to whoever gives us an amazing review on the Google.
Thanks, dear. All right, so let me give my memoirs team a hand. So let's give Samantha at the front a hand, Maritza, and Erica, who's been helping us with some social media. Thank you, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. And, of course, thank you, Colorado Springs. So please give yourselves a hand. That's it? That's all? Come on. This is for you. All right, so tonight's Storytellers and tonight's theme. Today's theme is Birthday Wishes Becoming Reality. We'll have Ripich with Presence of Everyday Life. Then we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk to some of our memoir alumni. And then we're going to close it out with the CEO, the Chief Encouragement Officer, Mr. Frank Sinclair. So this is going to be an exciting night. So here is our anecdote for this evening. Congratulations to Memoirs on this very big occasion. It's been a wonderful journey so far. Let's hope for many more years to come. We began with a dream of bringing our community together through stories. It's not just a birthday, it's a celebration of a family that only grows stronger with each and every story shared. May this journey continue into the coming years. Let's give ourselves a big round of applause for all the fantastic stories that have been shared on this memoir stage. And always remember, be true to your memoirs. And with that, I would like to call our first storyteller up to the stage. Let's put our hands together for Rachel Ripich with Presence of Everyday Life.
Good evening. Okay. By show of hands, it's hard to see you, so I'll have to squint. Who here has celebrated a birthday before? Maybe. Okay, I see a lot of hands. That's good. We're off to a good start. We've got something in common already. What about who enjoys seeing live music? Yeah, it's almost everyone again. That's great. Me too. It's one of my favorite things. Okay, final question. This one's a little more thought-provoking. Have any of you ever experienced an instantaneous connection with someone that you've met for the very first time? Good. It's good. Okay, based on who we have here tonight and the hands that I've seen raised, you all have something in common with the story that I'm about to share. This is a birthday memoir that I have titled Mountain Girl Meets Music Man. Last August, I was awarded 2 tickets for back-to-back shows to see my favorite band in my favorite mountain town on my birthday. Yeah, it was the best birthday present I have ever received. You know, the doom and gloom of the pandemic that had been continually lingering overhead, it started to dissipate. And the clouds parted, and the sun began to shine, and my heart was exploding with joy. I was so excited. You know, I had seen this band in concert many times before. This was not my first time, and I'm always the girl on the railing, front row, singing every lyric at the top of my lungs. I know the band members' names, and I've seen all of their YouTube videos. I love listening to their music in my car. The windows roll down when I'm driving through the mountains, that crisp Rocky Mountain air swirling through the windows. I'd also been to Buena Vista more times than I could count. It's my favorite mountain town. But you see, this time, this town and this band would forever change the way that I understood how powerful it is to be present. That presence is our superpower as human beings. And the more that you and I can learn and train and teach ourselves to be present in every given moment, the more that our birthday wishes beyond our wildest imagination can begin to come to fruition. The weeks leading up to the shows, I couldn't eat or sleep, work, nothing. I was so excited. All I could do was plan what outfits I was going to wear to the concerts each night. But when I brought myself back to the present moment through meditation and a lot of deep breaths, an interesting feeling started to come over me. It was an energetic entity. It was warm and welcoming. I wanted to hold it close. And this feeling kept coming up day after day leading up to the concerts. And so I finally decided to tell my friend Jessica, as my lucky +1 who was coming with me to the shows, that I felt I was going to meet someone that weekend. Maybe an old friend, somebody I hadn't seen in a long time. We'd reconnect. Perhaps a business acquaintance, someone who would help me unravel all of my entrepreneurial dreams. Maybe a romantic connection. I couldn't be sure, but I knew for a fact that that person and I were going to connect that weekend. So it's finally the day of the show. We're on our way to Buena Vista. My best friend is in the passenger seat. The music is blasting. The windows are rolled down. We're singing at the top of our lungs, that Rocky Mountain air swirling through the windows. It's my 32nd birthday, and the band is about to take the stage for the first time in over a 16-month hiatus. Having been tucked away from the imminent danger of a global pandemic. The majestic collegiate peaks and the roaring Arkansas River would become the backdrop for what was about to happen next. So we check into the hotel, and we're getting ready for the birthday shenanigans. We're heading down to dinner, all dolled up, and we get to the elevator lobby. The elevator doors open, ding. I go to step inside, and boom, I am face to face with the saxophone player of the band. In this moment, in this instant, I think, Rachel, don't this up. So I immediately strike up a conversation, and I start asking some particular questions. Are you ready for this evening? Do you have enough energy? Have they fed you well enough? In turn, he then pulls out his phone and starts showing me pictures of a beautiful buffet that they just fed the whole band. We banter for a few minutes. Meanwhile, my friend Jessica is holding open the elevator door, having no idea who this gentleman is, but watching this connection unravel right before her eyes. We talk for a few more minutes, but it seems like a lifetime. Time is standing still in that elevator lobby. I tell him to break a leg, and he wishes me a happy birthday. I step back into the elevator, and the doors close. Ding. Jessica looks at me with stars in her eyes and says, "Is that a member of the band?" In which I reply, "Yes, that was the saxophone player of the band." We could not believe the instantaneous connection that had just occurred. In that moment, I knew that something special had just happened. The rest of the night unraveled with absolute joy. It was a celebration of life and friendship, connection, and music. Music Man and I made connection, eye contact from across the sea of people from the stage multiple times throughout the show. And we reconnected again in the elevator during set break, and again at the late night show. We ended the evening on the balcony overlooking the Arkansas River with the stars and the moon shining above, dancing cheek to cheek to some Ben Webster old classic jazz music. He asked for my number, but I told him that I would see him the next day at the shows, and we left the evening at that. And the next day, once again, we make eye contact across the sea of people from the stage. And at the end of the evening, amongst the crowd and the chaos, he finds me and he asks for my phone number. He told me that I was some sort of angelic being that had been brought into his life. Thanks. Little did he know he was that warm, energetic entity, that energy that I knew I was going to connect with that weekend. And when I returned to the familiar mountains that I call home, and Music Man returned to his abode on the West Coast out in California, I couldn't sleep or eat, work, nothing. All I could do was lay awake and replay these birthday memories like an old home video on repeat. I laid in bed most nights just wondering if Mountain Girl would ever see Music Man again. Luckily, I did get to see him again. Multiple times, in fact, over several different weekends in both Colorado and California. Reconnecting each time as if it had only been a few moments in between the last time that we saw each other, yet it had been weeks. We had a special connection, but each time we left each other, we had no idea if we'd ever see each other again. But to me, that is where the true gift in life lies. And these gifts that are given to us on an everyday basis, they're not tangible or monetarily commoditized or everlasting. Oh, my favorite author, Eckhart Tolle, he sort of sums up this idea about time, that time isn't precious at all. In fact, time is an illusion. And that the only real point out of time is the now. And that's the precious gift. The more that we're stuck in time, which is the future and the past, the more we're pulled out of the now. And now is the greatest gift of all. You know, I can remember celebrating my birthday as a child and, talking about going back in time. I loved celebrating my birthday as a kid. I reveled in the celebration, the parties, and the attention, the presents, especially the gifts. But I remember wanting more and more and more of these gifts as I got older. But then the interesting thing was, as I got older, the less gifts that I actually started to receive. And so there was this interesting crossover point in time that I had to handle. The more I wanted, the less I got. And I didn't handle it well for a while. I actually vowed out of having birthday parties because if there was no presents, then what was the point of the party? But I feel like that stems pretty deep in our society these days. That, no longer is the joy of a simple celebration, some friendship, connection, maybe a little birthday cake, enough to fuel our souls. That we have gotten into more of that greed, the gifts that we feel are tangible or monetarily commoditized or everlasting, that's what will bring us happiness. Or perhaps mask the sadness we might feel about getting older. But as the Beatles, the famous musicians, remind us that life is short and there is no time for fussing and fighting, my friends. But we have to get back to celebrating these insignificant, small moments of life that are given to us every day, and not just one day of year on our birthday. These gifts that could be small and mundane, or large and all-encompassing. Maybe that instantaneous connection with a stranger. Or maybe it's just the wind rolling through the air as you're driving through the mountains. Unconditional love, or the music blasting on the radio, your favorite song playing. These are the seemingly insignificant incidents of life that when we are present to accept them, there's unlimited amount of celebration in this life. There are people that are less fortunate than you and I, that don't even get to celebrate their birthdays. And for those people, we must step into this power of our presence to accept these gifts and the joy and the sacredness of these everyday presents. Now, I'd like you all to close your eyes with me for a moment, if you feel comfortable. And sit up tall and maybe feel your feet pressing into the ground. Feel nice and firm. Feel the chair beneath you and take a deep breath. As you come into the present moment, I'd like you to picture in your mind's eye something, whether it's small and mundane or large and all-encompassing. Start to picture something that you can celebrate for yourself this evening. Now drop that image, that energy, that thought down into your heart. You take another deep breath. As you feel its warmth in your chest, you can start to open your eyes, holding that image or that energy with you as a reminder of the unlimited celebration that exists in this lifetime. It's my birthday wish this year and every year to follow that we as a society, a community of connected, peaceful, present human beings, that we can begin to find the joy in these everyday simple pleasures that are given to us. Thank you.
So how was that? That was a good story. Don't go anywhere. We're going to go check to see if there's some anonymous memoirs and see if we're going to read some people's secrets. Yes. Let's see. We have secrets? We have secrets. Do we have 3G secret? Did he just put it in there? All right. Let's see. Look at that. Pick a secret. And you get to read it.
Okay. It says, when my daughter, who was born the day before me, turned 8 years old, he looked up at me and said, "I'm the best birthday present you ever got." Question mark?
Awesome. Thank you very much, Rachel. All right, we are going to take about a 10-minute break, and then we will be back with our next part of this evening. What? And yeah, she wants Google reviews, just and secrets. Let's make her happy. Let's make her happy, right? Let's start getting back to our seats and get this next part started. Now, I don't see the person that I want to come up here first yet. I don't see her back in this room. So, this is Memoirs' first birthday. And for this next part, what we're going to do is just call up some of the Memoirs alumni. So, if you are a Memoir alumni, please raise your hand. Look at all these fantastic people who've been sharing stories. Yes. And I don't see my partner in here either to see if she can call the person that I want to call up here first. So, how did Memoirs get started? Let's start with that. Is anybody curious about that? Sure. At all? Yeah. So, I moved here from Miami, right? And in Miami, we used to go to an event called Raw Storytelling, which was very similar. And it was our friend that used to run it. And I remember, and for those of you that know that I've done the Accent Club type of project that I've abandoned, you know, whatever. I'll get back to it. But I used to go to Accent Club in Fort Lauderdale and in Miami. And this girl named Enid was the one, and she's like, I want to do this thing where people tell stories. And it just started as an idea. And now, I think she's 4 or 5 years into it now, and she's crushing it with raw storytelling. So what we wanted to do was we actually wanted to bring raw storytelling here. We're like, you're already doing it, so we can just take your template. And she's like, no, you guys will do it better if you just do it on your own. And she's like, let's start brainstorming. And it took us some time, but that's how we came up with Memoirs, True Stories, Unfiltered. Do you know where Colsey is, dear? Can we get Colsey in here? Thanks. So that is how Memoirs got started. And then it was about trying to find people in the community that would be interested in hearing stories. So again, thank you guys so much. I have found a tribe of people that, you know, are interesting and engaging and come from so many different perspectives. And I think that is fantastic. So I still don't see a Colsey. So whenever Colsey gets in here, and the reason I'm calling Colsey first is because Colsey was the very first memoir storyteller. Is that a Colsey? Colsey, get up here. So you missed my whole spiel, but that's fine. So I'm calling you up because you were the very first person to take the stage on Memoirs. So just tell people.
Tell people. Tell you guys whatever I want. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes, I was the inaugural storyteller, and I made sure to make him let me go first, so I didn't have to compare myself to Q out there because I knew he was going to be good. But since that day, oh my gosh, being on this stage was a huge eye opener for me on what is possible when you set fear aside and just show up, and being able to have a voice and say your piece is a really, really powerful tool to have in your tool belt. And since that day, I have gone on and done other public speaking events and gone on to start more businesses, and this stage really helped me build that confidence. And so anytime I'm here and I see you guys up on stage, I know the feelings you're having in your chest and all of that, but just know that, you know, we all can do hard things. So congratulations to all of the speakers here tonight and everyone who's been here in the past and showing up now. It's a great event, and I love it. And you guys have brought so much amazing community to Colorado Springs, and I'm so happy you guys are here and doing this. So,
Thank you, Colsey. So now I'm going to call up the only 2-time storyteller, Dr. Garrett Goggins. Come on up here. I don't know if I'm going to call everybody either. It depends on the time, but I'm going to work on it. What do you? You just be you. You be you. You're dressed.
So I've always expressed how much I love memoirs, just because, you know, I have Scott and Q back there. We always talk about how your story is not your own. It's really meant to be shared. And the piece with memoirs is not so much that I was up here on the stage, but I actually run a podcast, and I tell Flip all the time, I come here just to get guests for the podcast because the stories are unbelievable. And I think what really gets me about this platform is that it just proves that we all can go through this shit and just come out shining. I said that, and I say it many times, but it's these stories are so uplifting, and in a time where people feel like they can't necessarily overcome, they can come to a platform like this and say, hell yeah, I can overcome. If she did that, if she went through that, if he did this, I can do what I'm going through. And I think to me that's just been so uplifting. So every time I leave memoirs, whether I'm speaking or not, I always go walk out the door going, I'm ready to tackle this week. So
Thank you very much for sharing. So now I'm going to call up somebody, and I'm going to not introduce them, but they are going to know who they are by the way that I start this. And this is the way they started their talk. Do you know where you're going to? Do you know, do you like the things that life is showing you? Miss Michelle. I wasn't even here for that memoir. I was camping for her birthday. But I love that song. And it's just so appropriate, right, for this type of event. So Michelle, please just give people some insight on whatever you want to give insight on.
He sang it in the lower octave. It's, do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you? I don't know what to say. You caught me off guard. Storytelling. When I heard about this and Flip asked me to come out here, I'm like, yes! Because I believe that stories, we are the new cave paintings. And if we don't leave cave paintings for our next generation, our stories and all the lessons we've learned are gone. So this is why this is so important. That's why I did the Hold My Crown book, to gather more stories, because we need these stories told so that we can all learn and grow from them.
Thank you. All right, next I'm going to call up somebody that's one of the first persons I met when I got to Colorado Springs, and that is because I was looking for people to connect with. I got here during the COVID, and the very first thing that I could go to that was in person was a Toastmasters meeting. So with that, I'd like to call Robert up here. And Toastmasters, I think, what has the relationship between memoirs and Toastmasters been like?
Thank you. Well, you saw that on stage tonight. Rachel, wherever she is from our Toastmasters group. And we were privileged enough to see that last week or something. So what's the relationship? It's about telling stories. And I wrote in the review is a safe place to tell stories. And that's what I love about Toastmasters, is you can go there, share, get feedback, improve, get feedback back and forth, and it's a safe place. You'll never be, quote, judged. And that's what I feel about here, too. And when you and I met, we talked about, for those Colorado Springs people that know, there used to be a thing called the Story Project. And if anybody remembers that, right? That was a great venue for stories. That was one of my first, and Vivian's one of her first storytelling was at the Story Project over at Sunwater Spa. And we were so, when it stopped because of her health, and you started, we were excited to have this back and going in Colorado Springs. So thank you very much.
All right. And I already told this young lady that I miss her wittiness. Danielle, please come up here and share with the audience anything that you'd like to share.
Okay, we'll do an update since my story. So if you recall, my story was called WTF, What the Future. So my husband's case has right, Frank? This is what I'm saying. Go listen to the podcast, WTF, What the Future. because I said that so many times the first 3 years after his death. So where we're at with the DOJ case, and if you haven't heard the story, go listen to the podcast. Come talk to me, we'll have some more. So the DOJ case is now in its 5th continuance with no end in sight. I have actually opened, as a Gold Star spouse, I have opened up 2 congressional inquiries as to why. And one of those congressional inquiries is actually helping me get a plot and a headstone in Fort Logan National Cemetery. And my case right now is sitting in front of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So please understand, telling your story, as painful as it is, ongoing as it is, does have power. And there's very few people that can relate specifically to my story. There's only about 800 families that in the United States that can really relate to this story. Happened here in Montrose, Colorado. You can Google my name in the Denver Post and read all about it if you would like, as well as listen. But just know that's still ongoing. It's still a struggle. And every single day I get up and I have a contact at the congressman's office and say, where are we at? And that's where it's at. So there is power in your story. It is healing. And one of these days the story's going to break. And my goal is to be on the front edge of that and leading the change and making sure that this does not ever, ever fucking happen to any other family that goes through a death.
And that's where the whole true stories unfiltered parts come from, because all of life is not always rainbows and butterflies. I would like to call next somebody who sat up against this wall, staring at the closet with the open door. Scott Jensen, please come up. This guy was made to tell stories.
I was thinking I could be anonymous tonight. So my niece really wants a rock tumbler. That's what she wants for her birthday. And I was thinking about it as I was sitting back there, and about an old show I used to watch called Mythbusters. And one of the shows, they proved that you cannot polish a turd. And so, as we tell our stories up here about all these times that we were tumbled and all these ways that we came out of it, and we come out a little bit more polished, no matter how we feel about ourselves, I think it proves that at the end of the day, none of us are turds. We're all gems or minerals or something special.
Thank you. So, gentlemen, Mr. Brian, you're up. And he was just in the last one, so he was just a recent. He's fresh, yes. He's got that new memoir smell.
I still like coming up here because it always makes you feel like your name's in lights and you feel famous and all of the other kind of good things. You can't see any of the faces. Oh, wow. You know, I actually seen a meme on that today, and it might be a little too early for this, but there was that finish where he finishes off like this, and the person on the meme says, "Yeah, I choose paper because paper beats rock." I thought it was pretty good myself, you know. I mean, yeah, because his hand's full in. Too soon? Was that too soon? All right. I'll give my little short story of how I actually ended up on stage. I was sitting at home one evening. It was on a Sunday evening, and I wanted to speak on stage. I had thought about it because Michelle had done it. Michelle and I run a podcast together, and I always feel like I have to kind of go in her footsteps. So I'm like, how can I get up on stage? And on a Sunday evening, I pinged up. I says, I know you guys probably have a full house coming up tomorrow night, but what's your topic for next month? And she fires back at me, and she says, we've got an opening. I'm like, okay. So I had to throw everything together, get up here on stage. But it does. It really makes you have a little bit more confidence, especially with all of the fans that are out there, those who are listening, who want to hear your stories.
it gives you an opportunity to put that out there and actually feel good about what you do and feel good about that story sometimes. Because sometimes it's not all about tragedy. Sometimes it's about just having a good time and learning from the things that we've done across our paths and then sharing them. Thanks.
All right, so now I'm going to call one of, I think this person is almost like a kindred spirit to me because we're both annoyingly happy all the time. So Karissa, please come up here.
Hello. I see you have the little chickie. I can. What do I want to say? Wow. I'll just smile. Does that work? Wow. My heart is beating because I guess this is a good sign. Thank you. No, because being up here, for real, like, how do I explain what's happening to me right now? Standing on this stage changed my life. I met Flip, and I heard about what he was doing, and I had a story building up inside of me for years and years and years that I wanted to share. One that I was told by so many people didn't need to be told. And this stage and these lights and those little faces looking back at me changed my world. So I just want to thank everyone for being open. I always had this goal of hoping that if I shared my story that it would impact one person, just one. And I didn't realize that the person it would heal the most was actually myself. So it's a beautiful opportunity if you have a story to share. You can't see anyone when you're up here. It's like you're talking to yourself anyway. So it's good. But yeah, truly grateful for everyone I've met. And, you know, Flip likes to make this joke that we're annoyingly happy, but it doesn't come without the pain. I like to believe that the depth that we've felt sorrow is also the height that we can feel joy. So keep smiling.
Madoff, get up here. His story was awesome because he was just so bouncy and up and just made everybody laugh. It was pretty good. I really liked your story, Madoff. But, you know, he went from Atlanta, from the Little Rock, to the Big Rock.
I don't know where the humor comes from because I don't plan to be funny, but it just kind of comes out, and so I don't know. So I'm glad it comes out. I'm glad that it lands. But I really love this community. I think that we're all realizing, particularly in the last 2 years or so, how important community is and how important social health. And it's funny because I kind of feel like I'm an introvert, actually. I think I might have even mentioned that when I spoke up here. I'm kind of like, I kind of like to just kind of be a homebody, but actually I realize, again, in the last 2 years more than ever, I realize, oh man, social health is really important for everybody. So I love this coming together of the community. I love this sharing and this coming together because it just feels so good. And so I'm super grateful for Flip, super grateful for Maritza, super grateful for this whole community. Yeah, super grateful for the community. So thank you all, and thank you for everyone who has shared, and yeah, thank you.
So this young lady here was around me in Accent Club when I started it here, when I had this as just an idea. And she was sitting around the table helping me brainstorm how to make it a reality. So Rochelle, please come up here and share with the people.
I want to tell you, thank you, Flip, because when I did share my story at the very end, I kind of got lightheaded. I felt like I was falling, and Flip caught me. And that was a really great hug you gave me. It was a perfect hug at the right time. And I really felt your heart, so thank you so much. My story I did not share, and I think when I talked in my story was the first time I told the truth and I spoke up was to my 4th grade teacher when I was 9 years old, which literally dropped a bomb in my entire family, and my dad got arrested, and we went to foster care, and there was a whole long series of events after that. And all through my 20s, I really vowed not to tell anybody my story ever. I felt a lot of shame, and I also felt like when you tell the truth, like bad shit happens. So I kept it all inside. And I remember I was talking to somebody in my 30s by this time, late 30s, and they were like, don't you realize like the statistics that you're up against, like people who exit the foster care system, who age out and emancipate the way I did, 50% become homeless within the first 2 years. Suicide rates are really high, drug, alcohol. Kids who have a high rate of recidivism, which means that they go from 5 or more foster homes, 90% end up in prison. I'm the 10% that didn't end up incarcerated. I was like, and I didn't know that I had beat those odds. I didn't know what the statistics were. And I spoke to someone and they said, look, you need to tell people your story. You need to share. Stop being so selfish. You need to be a voice for the people who don't have a voice and for the kids out there that don't have a voice. I started to share my story more and more, but it was hard. But this has been a really good way for me to get the story out. It's better that I can't see your faces. So thank you, Flip. I appreciate it.
All right, we got a few more. Let's see. Scott Brandt, my sparring partner. Yes. I've missed you these past couple weeks. I keep trying to open it back up. I'm going to make it happen. Productive, not busy.
What is up, everyone? Scott Brandt. I think a lot of people know who I am and whatnot, but it's very interesting the fact that each of us has a story that somebody else needs to hear, and the fact that we sell ourselves short a lot of time because of the judgment that we have on ourselves. So if you've got the story that you want to share, get out of your own way, go bet on yourself, and understand that you have something somebody else needs to hear. It's a gift that's meant to be shared, and get out there and let people hear what's going on so you can go inspire somebody else. And it's very interesting. A lot of people are like, I just want to inspire one person. But if you think about it, that one person you inspire, they know 6 people. The ripple effect is huge that we don't realize until you start hearing people saying, thank you for sharing that story. Thank you for telling whatever it was, and being vulnerable and authentic and just showing up and being your true self. So appreciate it, everyone.
Vivian, come on up. And her story was intense, right? Because we almost lost her to COVID, but then she came back, and now she's healthier than ever. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And first of all, I do want to say thank you to Flip and Marissa for this opportunity, because there are so few places in our city to have a chance to be on stage for those of us who love to be on stage and tell our stories. And even though we're in Toastmasters and we're working on this weekly, without a place to actually be able to go beyond that boundary can be frustrating. And so thank you so much for this opportunity. And I want to echo everything that everybody has said here tonight about storytelling. It's how we connect with each other. And the emotion that we have in our stories connect the emotion to each other. And that's our superpower as humans, is connecting through our emotions. And this is a way to do that. And I loved what Michelle said about this is our cave pictures. This is how we continue our legacy as humans down the line. It has been forever thus. We have been doing it for centuries, and how beautiful that we still get to do it because of these two wonderful people. Thank you.
Peter Lynch, get on up here. Yeah.
Thank you. You said you can't see faces, but I don't know. Flip has a superpower, I guess. I thought I was blending in. Yeah, that's right. I got up here to share my story, and it's an interesting thing because I shared my story for me. You know, and I heard that echoed in some other people, some of what others were saying up here. As I told my story for me, but through telling my story for me, it also impacted others, and so the story becomes bigger than me when I get my story outside of myself, and that's the beauty of this. And when the story becomes bigger than me, it becomes our story. And when it becomes our story and we get to own our stories, we get to change our stories, and we get to shift the script of the experience of our life. So we have a beautiful experience to do that here. And I walked in late, so of course I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to say, other than just, I guess, a little bit about what my experience was. But, I mean, yeah, if you're thinking about sharing your story, come share your story so that it becomes our story, and we can shift that narrative together and grow together into that potential story that we all carry. So, thank you.
Erica with a K. And she was the last storyteller of the last memoirs. Oh, is it time?
No, Thank you, Flip. I wasn't expecting this. So when I think about memoirs and what it did, it's healing and community. And it wasn't just about being up here on stage. When I first met with Flip, he encouraged me to share my story with those around me, to get feedback. And some of those were close friends that didn't know what was going on in my life. And sometimes when we open up and we do that vulnerable thing and we share deeply what's going on inside of us, it brings us closer together. And that's what Memoirs is for me. It's about community and closeness.
Thank you. And I think this is the last person I'm going to call up. Where is the black bond? The chocolate bond. Q. Close us out before the break. If you want to sing for us like you did that day, you could do that too.
Yeah, there he is. Thank you, my friend. Give it up for Flip and Maritza.
Fulminating, so exotic. When she smiled at me, she took my breath away. She's reminiscent of a goddess. It's a shame that we could not communicate. How do I say hello? I just want to talk to you. How do I say you're beautiful and I can't take my eyes off you? I don't want to say the wrong things. I want to use the right words to impress you, my baby. How do I say?
You don't wake up every day and just get an opportunity to do that, right? I try to live my life full out. So my story was about a crazy-ass night in Las Vegas, if you guys remember. I'm from here, born and raised, Quentin Blanche. I met Flip and Maritza probably a while back, and they brought that Miami vibe, and I just was like, those are my people. Man, I don't know if I had anything to say to inspire or just like a message, but it's pretty crazy times we live in, right? And who feels like it's pretty easy to hate someone over love someone right now? What I love about these memoirs and the people and connections, just, you know, we all have a story, and that story could be a seed to sparking something big in somebody else. And I wanted to come here and just give people joy, give people laughter, because we have been through some hard times the last 2 or 3 years of this. I heard a quote that said, words are strong. Words are like if you go to a dressing store and you take a pin out of a shirt and you throw it at someone, you can feel it, right? But if I tape that pin on an iron bar and I stick it in your chest, I can penetrate your chest. Guess what the iron bar is? It's the emotions that we speak with. Who saw what happened last night in the world? Can you say that people act a different way when emotions get high? So when we tell our story, my hope is that we can spread some joy, some love. We can sprinkle like Salt Bae, some happiness, some joy. Because we should not be spreading hate. We should be spreading love. Each and every single one of you have added tremendous value to my life. And I take a piece of all your stories and I carry it with me. And I hope that you take a piece of the chocolate that I am and you carry it with you and you share your story, because you never know who you can impact when you just express yourself. I'll end with this, and I think this quote is something I've been thinking about a lot, and I just saved it. The only service you can render God is to give expression to what he is trying to give the world through you. Thank you.
Dear Maritza, I'm going to call you up last, but I'm going to call you up to read an Anonymous Memoirs because she's been a storyteller too. Uh-huh. This is my Vanna White. Yes, I'm the Vanna White at Nerd Night. Uh-huh. I throw the nerd candy to the people. Uh-huh. So let's see. What anonymous memoir do you have to pull out of that basket? Uh-huh.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say that I appreciate memoirs because I don't really like getting up on stage. I know that most of you that know me are like, what are you talking about? Like, you're great on stage and you do. But to me, it's scary. It's a scary thing. But it allowed me, someone canceled last minute. And it was Your Mother Should Know Memoirs. And I love my mother deeply. We have a great relationship. And being that I moved away, it's very hard for the both of us. And I've never told her exactly how much she means to me. Although you'd like to think that the people that you really love and hold dear know what they mean to you, tell them. Because sometimes they don't know. And sometimes they have other people telling them things in their ear that they didn't do something right with their child or whatever. And my mom got to see the Facebook live stream all the way from Miami. And she was a crying ball, a mess, when she heard and saw me talk about her on stage. So that's my little memoirs tidbit. So now for this, oh boy, okay. When I was a kid, we didn't have a lot, and my birthday falls on the day of Christmas. Oh no, on the day Christmas credit card bills come due. All right. That sucks. Woo, man. I wanted so much for a pair of roller skates. I had little faith my family could afford them. When they arrived for my birthday, they brought so much joy. Aw, look at that. How cute is that? All right, so we are going to take another about 10-minute break. Go ahead, refill your drinks, grab another bite to eat if you're still hungry. Put some more memoirs in here, because if we don't read them in between speakers, I put them up on our social media for people to see. And of course, you don't put your name on it. Don't forget to give us some more Google reviews. We've got those Wingfest tickets up for grabs, so keep those rolling in as well, all right?
That's all.
There's a lot of fantastic energy in this room. So are we giving this out at the end? Okay. All right. So how's the night going so far? How's our birthday coming along? All right. So there's really nothing more for me to say as I introduce this next person. Like, do I even need to say anything? Do I need to say anything? So I am honored and privileged to ask the CEO of Colorado Springs, the Chief Encouragement Officer of Colorado Springs, up to the stage. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Frank Sinclair. And the name of his story is A Walk in the Park.
I went around because I'm old. Yeah, so I didn't want to have to sue Eric. Yes. You know, it's such an honor to be able to come up here to the very 1-year anniversary of Memoirs. And I noticed that half the people left since all of the alumni were introduced. Was that on purpose? No. No, I'm just joking. We are here. What an incredible thing that Flip and Karissa have brought to Colorado Springs. I think the very last vintage of greatness for this city is in the creative space. And when we raise our level in the creative space, we are going to just take over as a community. This place is awesome. You know, I just came back yesterday from my daughter's funeral. And that was incredibly difficult to do. She died of type 1 diabetes in Indianapolis, and I went there. And so unlike most speakers that come up here, I didn't prepare a darn thing. And I called my talk A Walk in the Park. You'll see why that's obvious in a minute. Oh, I meant to say also, I feel like a fraud because it's not my birthday. Right? So I'm doing a birthday talk when it's not even my birthday, but it is the birthday of an important date that involved Acacia Park here in Colorado Springs for me. Because a number of years ago, I called Acacia Park my home. I was a homeless guy here in the streets in Colorado Springs. That was my reintroduction to this city. You say, how do you end up like that? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'll tell you. Coming up in North Carolina for me, in the South, I came up in abject poverty. Our schools didn't integrate until I was in the 8th grade. So I grew up in segregation. There was never any pushback from people using the N-word or calling you dad. We lived literally on the other side of the tracks. My mom and dad finished the 6th and 8th grade, respectively. I went to the tobacco fields and the cotton fields, picking cotton and what we called cropping tobacco right beside my parents. That was my upbringing. So there was something really instilled inside of me that wasn't good. What was instilled was that I grew up with this thought, with this internal feeling that I was less than other people. When I was growing up as a very little boy, there were still lynchings in North Carolina. And these things, this is not a civil rights talk or social justice talk or any of those type of things, because anyone that knows me really well knows that I carry no chip whatsoever on my shoulder. This is just what it was. This is how we lived. Until this day, I won't go camping because we had so many holes in our roof that I felt like I was camping every day. Right? So you will never see this dude sleeping outside. So, right? To me, camping is barefoot in a Holiday Inn at midnight. That is about as close as I get. So I was a good student in school, though. Matter of fact, I was called a nerd and all of these things that people that have any academic prowess are called. I was 4'10" when I was a sophomore in high school. You ladies can go ahead and laugh. I've had plenty of therapy. So this lady had to cover her head. It was so funny. You were right in the line of fire, girlfriend. I saw you. Matter of fact, you look just like that girl that I dated. No. You're still laughing. So 4'10", so to say I didn't have a social life would be the biggest understatement in the world. I didn't date, I didn't go out, but I call it leveraging your pain, because if I had been able to do that, I would have done exactly what everyone else was doing. So I took that time and I became an avid reader, and that led me to some great spaces in my life. So how did I end up in the park? I had not one counselor tell me during my time in high school that I could go to college, even though I carried a high 3 GPA. Not one. So I enlisted in the Air Force to escape my upbringing. And that's what brought me to Colorado Springs. The beautiful Colorado Springs with no black people. You weren't here yet, Q, so shut up. Barely any black people, right? And I was in the Air Force, and there were only 3% of the Air Force was black at that time. You could go a whole duty assignment without seeing another black person. And in my infinite wisdom, I figured out that if I was going to have any relationships, that I had to cross the line and had to start understanding and becoming someone that dared to make friends with people that didn't look like me. And that was one of the greatest revelations of my life. Fast forward, I did great in the Air Force. I spent 8 years, 3 years here, went back to North Carolina for a little while. Spent my last 3 years in the Air Force at Kadena Air Base, Okinawa, Japan. What a great assignment for me, especially for a guy who was now 5'9" and woman eligible. It was awesome, right? And I didn't have to speak Japanese. It was like the common language. We won't go into that, but and I just had a wonderful time. In my 7th year in the Air Force, I became the 2nd youngest person of my rank in the entire Air Force. My movement was incredibly swift. I gained my bachelor's degree there in business. And I thought, wow, I have arrived. But you know what really happened to me? My less than conversation got very loud in my mind. And I started hearing, you don't deserve this. Who do you think you are? They're going to find you out. It's just a matter of time. And over time, it felt like someone was walking right beside me every day, whispering these messages in my ear. So I started drinking real heavily. I was still drinking already, but heavier, to try to stop the voices in my head. And in the midst of that, I threw my Air Force career away. I sabotaged it because I didn't believe that I deserved that in my life. So I fell so far off the wagon that at my 8th year, the Air Force told me, you can no longer stay here. Your career is over. But me, being the whiz that I am, I said, cool, I'll just marry my Japanese girlfriend and stay here. And the Air Force said, no, Sinclair, that don't work. You have to go back to America to discharge, then you can do whatever you want. So I came back, discharged, went to North Carolina, said bye to my family, I'm headed to Japan, and I just had a wild hair. I said, you know what, Colorado was so good to me, I think I'll go back through one last time on my way back to Japan. 40 years later, here I am. One last time on my way back to Japan, and I holed up in this old motel down on South Nevada for 3 weeks, and I did what any respectable, honoring drunk would do. I went out every night and got drunk. And not only that, I was the life of the party. I let everyone else get drunk, and 3 weeks later, I woke up in that motel, and I had blown every cent that I had, and I was thrown out, and I became a homeless guy here. My birthday of my introduction to homelessness in Acacia Park in March. And you know what? For me, it was like, I found my people. This makes sense to me. Of course this is where I'd end up. Look how I was raised. Look at the messages that were given me. Look at the chaos of my life. I didn't deserve that. That was an illusion. So I'm really back where I belong. And I integrated myself into the homeless community. Did you know that the homeless community is really a community? Did you know that there's white-collar homelessness and blue-collar homelessness? I was a white-collar homelessness. After all, I was degreed. So I can't, way too proud to hold a sign up and ask for money or any of those things. So we segregated from that standpoint, but we still integrated as far as the way that we protected one another. And it really made me feel at home. We're all looking for that, aren't we? Home. Somewhere there has to be home for us. Mine was in Acacia Park. Where's yours? Have you found your way home? One guy walking through the park every day would see me sleeping underneath the bush. I spent about 6 months in the park. And one day he got up the courage to come and ask me to tell my story. I did, and he took me home with him. And it totally changed my life. You know why? Because just like memoirs, someone looked beyond the obvious. The average person would not have spat on me if I'd been on fire. But this guy was curious. What's your curiosity quotient? Are you curious about other human beings? He was. On the 2nd of July, I'm really old, so I'm going to tell you how old I am with this. I know I don't look it because I'm black. Dark chocolate. Yeah. Lighten up, though, because I still got a shade to go before I max out. So, I cracked myself up on that one, I tell you. But my wife is probably going, oh, my God, I'm glad I'm not there. But anyway, what was I saying before that? What? Excuse me? Oh, how old I am. That's right. Yeah. I'm not telling you. You can add it up yourself. On the you can add it up yourself. On the 2nd of July, 1983, I was a homeless guy in Acacia Park. On the 2nd of July, 1984, I was the chief of the Fuels Division for Raytheon at the Air Force Academy. How about that? Right? How about that? It's amazing. So I celebrate my 39th year from entering the park as a homeless guy with a less than mentality and a mindset that life would never be okay for me, that this was the end. And last week, I earned my doctorate. A homeless guy with a doctorate. Isn't that a trip? Right? Yeah. So, happy birthday to me. I am so glad for the journey. I am so glad that I got the opportunity to leverage my pain to create something special for my life that's now committed to lifting up other human beings and creating space that they can live their best lives as well. You guys are memoirs. You know what? Be encouraged.
All right, how is that? Don't go anywhere yet. Frank. We still have an anonymous memoir to read. Maritza's going to bring it out for us, but that was awesome. What do we think of this guy right here? Huh? If you've never met this guy, make sure you set up your one-on-ones and all that fun stuff if you're not in the networking world, because he's a fantastic individual to get to know. And again, he will be emceeing the Best of the West Wing Fest. Uh-huh. All right.
Greg, you look so good out there. Look at you. Wow, hi. You're amazing. You like that guy? We do too. Not the same way, but yeah, we do. 6-year-old me. Oh, okay. Wanted to go to.
I'm trying to read it too.
Are you?
Wanted
Wanted to go to Burger King. Is that for dinner? I was told we were going to McDonald's. I am kicking and screaming. My parents had planned a party at McDonald's. Oh!
All right, so, Dear, are we going to give away some tickets? All right, so hopefully there's some Google reviews. Are there any Google reviews? All right, let's see. How many of you love chicken wings? Yeah, me too. We should make that a Memoirs theme, chicken wings.
Chicken wing, chicken wing. All right. So, we have 8 reviews. And I am going to choose this one right here just at random. What an amazing experience this is. It's important to remember that each of us has a story that someone else needs to hear. Thank you so much for bringing real people's stories to the Springs. Jean Walton. Woo! Come up here. You get to come on the stage to come and get your envelope.
You got to twist it up.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Yeah. Thank you. All right, you can go now. That's all. I just wanted you to be on stage so she can know what it feels like for when it's time for her to tell her story. All right, dear, you can close us out.
So who's interested in knowing next month's theme? Yes, all right. So next month's theme, I have an idea that the only thing which makes it possible to regard this world we live in without disgust is the beauty which now and then men create out of chaos. The pictures they paint, the music they compose, the stories they tell, and the lives they lead. of all the riches and beauty in this beautiful life, this chaos is the perfect work of art. So April's theme is emerging from the chaos. So we will see you next month, April 25th, 6:30 p.m. Memoirs, True Stories, Unfiltered. See you next month.